Hey everyone, Oricon here, and why am I not getting either of the next generation consoles? Well, because I can't afford them. But other than that, let's push that out of the way for a second and talk to you a little bit about what the options are, why you would want to get one, and why you might not want to get one, at least right now. So let's get started, shall we? First, disclaimer, this is just my personal opinion, and I'm not an expert in the hardware or anything. I'm just a person who plays games. This is just a quick, casual, top-layer guide to help you out if you are on the fence about purchasing either of these consoles. And that's assuming you can even get one. They're very hard to find right now, but this will work in the future when they're readily available. This will work just fine as a guide then, too. So let's start off with the PlayStation 5. There are two SKUs for the PS5, a $500 version that contains a disk drive and a $400 version that does not contain a disk drive. Other than that, they are exactly identical. The only difference really is whether or not you want to download your games or play them off a disk. The version that has a disk drive, you can still download games on that, but obviously the digital-only version, you are forced to playing games digitally, so you can't really buy games used or anything like that. Honestly, it's up to personal preference. Lots of people love going digital only, but as you can see, I like my physical media. I like my shelf full of games, so obviously I would go with the disc version for myself. Like I said, it's just personal preference. Now, for the Xbox, things are a little bit more complicated. There are two versions. There's the Xbox Series X, which is a $500 system. It's the default system, the big bells and whistles one, and that's got a disk drive. Then there is the Xbox Series S. That's $300. It does not have a disk drive, it's digital only, but unlike the PS5, there are actual differences on the inside. It's so much cheaper because it's a little bit less powerful. So that's something to keep in mind. You'll still be able to play all the same games, but you won't be able to play them at the same graphical fidelity or frame rate as with the Xbox Series X. For people that don't know about any of this jargon, the thing to keep in mind when you're buying gifts, looking for the name Series in the name, because there are also things on the market called the Xbox One X and the Xbox One S. Those are also good systems, honestly, but they're not the new systems. They're from several years ago, and that's just something to keep in mind if you want to avoid disappointed faces on Christmas morning. But what about the games? Most of the games can be played on either system. The big third-party releases for this holiday, Cyberpunk 2077, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Call of Duty, Black Ops Cold War, all of those can be played on the PS5, the Xbox Series X, the PC, and even some older systems as well. Back in the day, there used to be lots of games that were third-party exclusives, but that trend seems to be going away, so really the only exclusives you're going to see are the first-party games that are made by Sony and Microsoft themselves. For the most part, there are exceptions. Really though, what are the exclusives? What games are we talking about here? Well, honestly, there are not many. And it depends on if you mean full exclusive or console exclusive or time exclusive. It's a lot of jargon, but basically, if you want games that can only be played on these new systems, the PlayStation 5 only has two games. Astro's Playroom, which is basically, it looks fun, but it's a tech demo that's included for free on the system, and also there's another game called Demon's Souls, which is a remake of a game from 2009. That's it. That's all you've got. Xbox is even worse in that regard. They've got absolutely zero exclusives. And this is done on purpose. They want to move game consoles into something more of an incremental release like an iPhone. So for the next couple of years, all of the games that Microsoft makes are going to be available on both the new Xbox and the old Xbox. They don't want to leave anybody behind. There are pros and cons to this idea, but it's really just something to keep in mind. Nothing you buy on the new Xbox is going to be exclusive to that gaming system. Similarly, other big games that are available on the PS5, like the new Spider-Man game, Sackboy: A Big Adventure, and Bugsnax, Those are like the big games for PS5, but you can also play those on the PlayStation 4. They've released them on the previous consoles as well, just to not leave anyone behind. Speaking of the PS4, let's talk a little bit about backwards compatibility. That is something that's a big sticking point for a lot of people. The PlayStation 5 can play almost all PS4 games. That's what they've said, almost all. But anything beyond that, PS1, 2, 3, it will not play any of that at all. So that's something to keep in mind. In comparison, the Xbox One X, Xbox Series X, sorry, even I get the words confused sometimes. They can play select titles all the way back to the original Xbox. But just like the PlayStation, this is sort of done through emulation, and it's not actual backwards compatibility, so it will not play every single game. It'll only play select titles. Sort of in a way to combat this, they've got digital services. PlayStation has PlayStation Plus, and Xbox has Game Pass. These are Netflix kind of like subscription services where you get lots of perks, and some of those perks include free games. Game Pass blows PlayStation Plus out of the water in that regard. They've got over 100 games, old and new. Whereas PlayStation Plus, it's only a couple games a month for free. Honestly, both of these systems are great, but all of these games can be played elsewhere, and that's my main point I'm trying to get across. Game Pass is amazing, but you can get it on Xbox One, you can get it on PC. It's not something that you need an Xbox Series X for. So if you aren't upgrading your system for new games, what are you upgrading for? The answer, of course, is shiny new graphics, spiffy, faster frame rates, and, believe it or not, loading times. One of the biggest changes of this new generation of game consoles is the switch to a SSD, a solid-state drive, rather than a traditional hard drive. For people that aren't into tech stuff, what this boils down to is loading is much faster, like absurdly faster. You won't be able to go back after you experience this, apparently. I have not experienced it myself because I don't have these new consoles, but it's supposed to be almost instantaneous. But is that enough? Let's talk about graphics. Well, let me ask you another question. Do you have a 4K TV? Does your 4K TV display at 120 hertz? Does it have an HDMI 2.1 port? Do you even care about all these things? Those are the types of questions that is going to swing people one way or the other on side of this fence. I personally have a television that only goes up to 1080p, and I've been fine with that. I just basically watch YouTube and Netflix with it. The new Xbox and the PS5 are designed to take advantage of that 4K technology, and if you don't have the correct setup for that, you're not going to be able to experience it fully. You can have a 4K stream that's downgraded to 1080p and it looks better than regular 1080p, but it's nowhere near the fidelity of true 4K. Basically, if you don't have a 4K TV with all the bells and whistles, you are paying for these new consoles for a technology that you cannot use. You're paying extra for a technology that you cannot use. So, ultimately, what is my recommendation? If you love big shiny graphics and you have a desire to see things with the best graphics, the best frame rate that they currently can be at the moment, you probably already have a gaming PC. But beyond that, second place, these new consoles are great for that. They are both amazing systems with the ability to play a ton of great games. But if you don't care about graphics, or if you don't have the ability to see these special 4K graphics, there's really nothing here that you can't find cheaper on a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One. And that's really what I'm trying to get at here. These systems are going to be around for a very long time. They have been stuffed with all of the newest technology to future-proof for when 4K TVs become more affordable. They are not for everyone. And that's something to keep in mind when you want to drop down $500+ on these systems. I personally think it's much better to wait. But hopefully, with this information, you can make an informed decision for yourself on whether or not you want to buy either the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X. Honestly, I'm not going to say which one of those two is better. They're pretty equal in my eyes. But in all honesty, I'm waiting on both of them. Well, I hope you enjoyed my little cursory dive into these new systems. Like I said, very light. I didn't want to make things too technical. I could go off on this for hours, but I didn't want it to become boring. And I wanted the video to be accessible to anyone, because lots of people don't really care about the specs that are inside the box. They just want to play the games. And, well, I'm like that sometimes too. So that's what I wanted this video to be about. These new systems are both great, honestly. But there's nothing here that I find that can't be found anywhere else. I'm not going to be picking them up until they can prove to me that there's a big generational leap, something that cannot be found anywhere else. Or until Final Fantasy XVI comes out, whichever one comes first. Anyways, let me know what you thought about this video down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you want to fight me? Do you think I'm just salty because I couldn't get a pre-order? Comment down below and let's get a discussion going. And if you liked what you saw from me today and you want to see more, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon so YouTube can notify you whenever I put out a new video. It's silly, I know, but it really does help the channel grow. If you want to get in touch with me personally, my email and my social media tags are in the description below as well. I haven't been using my Instagram enough lately, but that's going to change because this week is the start of my fitness journey for a Ring Fit adventure video that I'm going to be making soon. So look forward to that, and let me know how I'm doing. I can really use the feedback. And with that, I'm off to play my Switch, honestly, because that's all I got. So actually, I just picked up this one yesterday. Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. Could be good. I don't know. Maybe I'll put out a review. Anyways, see you later.